What's up, everyone? Monster Master Godzilla here, and I'm back continuing the Godzilla-Thon. We're now up to Godzilla vs. Destoroyah. Now, this one is the big finale of the Heisei series. It was a 1995 film. This one's my birth year movie, and of course, one of my favorite Godzilla movies. And which I'll talk about later. And now, here we go. What can we say about this one? This was an epic finale of the Heisei series. And now, Godzilla himself, he was suffering from... takes place after the death of Space Godzilla. That we discovered that the island was been in ruins, been burnt down to the ground. And Godzilla was glowing, covered in like lava-like rashes, and glowing like red too. And what was wrong with him? You find out, which is why he looks like this right here. It's because they found out his heart was on the verge of a nuclear meltdown. That's right. His heart was like that's the actual explanation. His heart is like a nuclear reactor and it's melting down. And if he melts, once he goes up to 1200 degrees, they believe that it will blow up the entire world. Pretty extreme. So, and then we found out they end up tying the first movie with the very first film, the classic 1954 film, with this one from the final Heisei movies, where by saying that the one way to destroy Godzilla was the oxygen destroyer, when one of the characters, which is Emiko, made a cameo in this one, and they even referenced Dr. Sarazawa, and they shown flashbacks of 1954, where the weapon killed the oxygen destroyer, which is the weapon that killed the original Godzilla. So then, it turns out, the oxygen destroyer ended up having little did that Sarazawa would have known, if he was alive, is that it had side effects. Side effects caused a prehistoric crustacean from the Precambrian era to mutate. A prehistoric crustacean had mutated and formed creatures that very strange looking monsters, which is where Destoroyah called the aggregate showed up looking like this, and so they end up going on a rampage, and it made you end up, sometimes made you forget that you're watching a Godzilla movie, but instead a B horror movie. That's parts where it's almost like a horror movie, where those monsters are on the rampage. And then we found out Godzilla Jr. shows up, which this time he ends up looking like Godzilla, and it was the most popular design of... This one's like the most popular design of Godzilla's son. And this time he's called Godzilla Jr., simply just Junior. That's how I see the name of Godzilla's son should be, in my eyes, is Godzilla Jr. I hope they use that name for the MonsterVerse. If they were to introduce the son of Godzilla in the MonsterVerse, I would hope it's named Godzilla Jr., not Manila. And this is what Godzilla Jr. looks like right here. And then when Destoroyah had more forms, including his flying form and his crab-looking form with the long arms right here, called his aggregated form. They end up having Godzilla. That's when Destoroyah ends up getting into a fight with Destoroyah. Instead of being like Manila, where he's just a little pussy who can't even fight back and get scared. This time they actually had the son of Godzilla hold a fight on his own, and he handled really. It was a hard watch, but we saw how Godzilla's son handled a fight on his own, and he gets into a fight with Destoroyah, and he actually beats him. Yes, that's right. He fought well against Destoroyah, and he actually beats him. And and they also introduced a new weapon called the Super X3, which this time, instead of being a dome or just any spaceship, this time it looks like a jet, and it shoots shoots an ice cannon, shoots an absolute zero cannon, and it tries to freeze up Godzilla to slow down the meltdown. And it was a nice effect to show Godzilla being frozen from that. But eventually he thaws from that and continues on. Oh yeah, in the beginning, Godzilla was attacking not Tokyo, but Hong Kong, which is in China, not Japan. So then after Godzilla meets up with Godzilla Jr., they get into a fight. They get into a fight with the fully evolved Destoroyah, which looks like the devil. And then Destoroyah ends up taking Godzilla Jr. on the ground and drops him on a building, beaming him with it, and basically killing him. But Godzilla then fights Destoroyah and wounded him badly. And causing both Godzilla and Mickey to be heartbroken. Destoroyah was the only monster to emotionally hurt Godzilla. So you see how you end up feeling sympathy for Godzilla badly when he see that they killed his son. So he tries healing Godzilla Jr. And the saddest part was when Godzilla shuts his eyes. When Godzilla Jr. shuts his eyes. And that's when you thought he died. Having you thrown off thinking he died. But later on, Godzilla fights Destoroyah. And now that battle was actually sad. Because Godzilla had to fight Destoroyah and he's dying. And Destoroyah, being that he's created by the Oxygen Destroyer, which is the weapon that killed Godzilla, he had a reputation of being called the monster that killed Godzilla. It's sort of being like Doomsday with Superman. You know how Doomsday was being called the monster that killed Superman? Well, Destoroyah is being called the monster that killed Godzilla. Well, in other media maybe, but he's just only called the monster that killed Godzilla because his origin killed the original Godzilla. But he didn't kill Godzilla in this movie. He didn't do much damage to Godzilla. Destoroyah didn't really do much damage to Godzilla. He was mostly targeting Godzilla Jr. So then Godzilla fights Destoroyah. He does fight back against Destoroyah, but it's the most disappointing part is that Godzilla never actually defeats him. That Godzilla never actually beats Destoroyah. Sure, he fought back, but the army actually took him down. And supposedly and then after that, Godzilla starts to have his meltdown. And that's where it's most emotional, where Godzilla finally melts down. And has some very beautiful music that comes around to it. And it was quite amazing to hear. And so that's when they shown that Godzilla, and that's when Godzilla finally dies. And then finally, just when you thought it's the end of Godzilla for good, the radiation the radiation that spread all over the city ends up spreading ends up going on Godzilla Jr. And it resurrected, and it shows a silhouette of Godzilla, implying that Godzilla Jr. got hit with the radiation and came back to life, and came back as the new Godzilla, inheriting the King of the Monsters role. And it hints out that Godzilla is never gone. No matter how many times you kill off Godzilla, he'll keep coming back, and he never will leave you, and he'll always be around to haunt human beings too. And supposedly, Godzilla vs. Destoroyah was supposed to be like the ending of Toho's final Godzilla movie, period, where they'll never make any more Godzilla movies after that. And so they had that's when they made the impact, saying Godzilla died, and they actually made a funeral for Godzilla. It's like a big deal, sort of similar to the death of Superman during the time. So, would I recommend grabbing Godzilla vs. Destoroyah? Absolutely, especially in this double feature right here, which I have with Space Godzilla. And that's all I have to say for you guys. And what I will definitely say, this one's a great impact in the Godzilla franchise, tying with the classic original 1954 film with Godzilla vs. Destoroyah together. And it was a good ending to the Heisei series. And that's all I have to say for you guys, and stay tuned for more. We'll be going up to 1998, so brace yourself for that review. So, that's all I have to say, folks, and as always, stay awesome, my Monster Masters, and I'll catch you later. Bye!